Welcome to Gunfight at the Flux Corral. My name is Peter Hahn. I am a senior platform engineer at Ketch. I've been at Ketch for about a year and a half or so, working with Anton and Tyler recently. Flux has been one of our most recent projects that we've worked on, so let's talk about it. Just raise your hands. How many of you know of CICD? Okay, something that I don't have to cover. Okay, I can move through that pretty quick. How many of you want CICD in your company? And how many of you have it? There's one more change.
Half
CICD. Is that a SID as a service?
Yeah.
That doesn't count. So CICD, just quickly going over it, continuous integration, continuous delivery. High level nutshell, we want to do, application developers will make changes. They will come up with an application version at the end of it. You want to package up that artifact as fast as you possibly can, and then deploy that to an environment where they can be tested fast, quick, with minimum interruptions on your side. So for most of us at Superset Hive, we're talking about how are we going to build Docker containers, right? And then deploy it to Kubernetes. Super utopian view of CI/CD here. They will merge into master/main, compile, package it up, automated unit test runs, automated integration test runs, artifacts gets built, published, deployed to a non-production environment, automated test, end-to-end test, and all the other stuff runs, and gets deployed all the way out to production without any human intervention. Very utopian, but something to aim for. Right? There are a lot of popular CI/CD tools. GitHub Action is a popular thing just because of the popularity of GitHub. GitLab has been sort of kind of pivoting themselves away from just hosted Git repositories online, and they're more venturing out more into this world. Travis and Circle have been a clear, pretty strong market coverage over there. For a while, they're more of like a powerhouse in the market. On the CD side, if you're looking straight only for the Kubernetes side, Argo and Flux are the two most common ones that come up. If you want to double down on AWS Code Deploy surprisingly has a pretty good reviews. Just most people don't want to double down on AWS. Then if you want to look for more generic, more robust, powerful CI/CD tools, then you're looking at things like Spinnaker and others. Notice how I am not talking about Jenkins. I do not want Jenkins on any of the Superset Hive companies. If you have a strong opinion on we should have it, come talk to me after the talk. We'll have a nice little duel on that. So at Ketch, we do GitHub Actions for CI and Flux CD for CD. I think most of you are pretty familiar with GitHub Actions, so I'll focus today mostly on the Flux side. So other than my team and Sid, that I already know the answer of, how many of you have heard of Flux? Awesome, perfect. Exactly the answer I wanted. Flux, when we did the evaluation of Flux with many other CD tools, the three big things stood out to us. One, it is a completely Git-based tool. You create a repository and link your Flux pods in your Kubernetes system to that repository, and that's how it works. You don't have to teach Flux, like you don't have to, there's no another database that Flux handles. There's no other, you don't have to go into their different UI to enter in a bunch of different configurations or anything like that. Everything is in the Git. Git is your source of truth at that point. which also means that you get all kinds of Git bonuses. You can revert, you can get blame, you get the version, you get the tagging, all that jazz comes in just for free. The other thing that stood out a lot was Flux takes the declarative approach. So unlike Jenkins, you don't tell Flux these are 15 steps you need to do in order to end up in the result. You tell Flux this is the final result that I want. Flux will get you there on its own. The benefit of that route, it would be if your infrastructure somehow changed and you forgot to update your steps, now you're just updating the steps and hoping your infrastructure is up to date to that what you'll want. You don't know for sure. The worst case scenario, if your steps happen to work and all pass, you have no idea what just happened. Whereas Flux will try to make, it will take that as the answer. It will try to match the actual infrastructure to match the Git. If it doesn't, it will retry and it will fail and it will let you know. And the last thing, the huge big thing for us, at Ketch we use Helm for all of our infrastructure stuff. Flux has native Helm support. So the CRD that you guys are looking at, the name of the CRD is Helm Release. Online somewhere out here, you'll see the chart name, you'll see the chart version. Go down further, you will see values. If you're familiar with Helm, this is how you'll recognize that this is how you would override the default values. So all of that is built in and burned in. You don't have to come up with new ways and learn new Flux isms to learn how to do this. But as usual, I mean, all the applications are, if they work as smooth and nice as the back of the package box says, then it would all work out fine. They don't. So some of the gunfights that we gone through while implementing Flux. First one is secrets. We all have secrets in our infrastructure. So I said Flux is a Git-based solution. So that would immediately make you think, oh, do I have to check in my database passwords and API tokens into Git now? Answer is yes or no, up to you. And the good thing is it's not really Flux specific. It doesn't really matter which CD tool that you use. Before your CD tool, all your secrets lied nicely, safely, and inside of your laptop, didn't need to go anywhere, right? And clearly your laptops are safe and encrypted, right? But with the CD, now you need to get that secret out of your laptop into CD's hands somehow. So this is not a Flux limited question. But the good part is that means there are all the other people in the world that are facing the same problem, and there are answers out there for you. Two common ones. One is HashiCorp Vault. Vault is a very well-known secret management software built by HashiCorp. There are well-established and well-known patterns to hook up Vault with your CD tool, so that your CD tool will retrieve the secret from the Vault and deploy along with it. You can also do things like hook up your pods directly to the Vault, so that your CD won't even have to know anything about your secret. Your application pods themselves will go straight to Vault. The other approach is Mozilla SOPs. It is a tool to encrypt and decrypt. So you can connect it with things like PGP key, KMS keys to encrypt and decrypt. So you would encrypt it and you give CD permission to decrypt your secret, and decrypt it and deploy it accordingly. Next problem is the number of PRs that you will have to write and get approved will increase by a lot. Basically, every single time you make an application change, you'll PR that, obviously. And then you'll have to come to Flux and PR, I want the new version out. And then one more time. It will slow you down, but it will also have some benefits to it. If you are trying to just, if you are a three-man team, your engineering team is a three-man team and you just want to iterate super fast, maybe not the best tool for that particular time. So something to think about for you.
That means every
Go.
time you want to deploy a new version, you have to go into Flux, update a file and say deploy this version, and only get it deployed.
You will go to Git, create a new commit, saying version n+1.
Yeah.
Commit, push, have that reviewed, have that merged, then Flux will pick that up. Right. Here's one Flux-specific problem. We're all humans. We make mistakes. Sometimes you fat finger something. You need to type A and you type S. All of the Kubernetes, as Tyler earlier said, it's YAMLs all the way down. So, and YAML's not the most robust language. Sometimes you type in integer 5 and it wants string 5. Only will figure it out once you try to deploy it. Those kind of things will happen. When it occurs runs into an error, Flux will retry to wean out all these transient errors. And then it will, for legit problems, it will get stuck. It will be super nice if you do another commit to fix up your error, delete the quotes and turn it into a number 5, commit, push. And if Flux immediately just pick that up and go, it will be super nice. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Once it's stuck, it won't pick it up. So you'll have the way to unstick yourself would be suspend and resume, two commands followed by one after the other. It is by far the most intuitive command that you will come up with, right? Obviously. But so it is very annoying process to go through. But there is a big, GitHub issue thread on this. Flux team is working on it. They're trying to fix it. They're trying to come up with a better UX for it. Let's see. Flux, one of the things Flux will do is it pulls instead of receive the push. So every given amount of time, it goes and pings GitHub, see if there's anything updated. So that means if you didn't time your PR, if you got unlucky, basically, you'll have to sit there and wait a little bit. I think the Flux team's philosophy on this is, trust, your deployment's going to be most of the times your deployment's going to be great. Merge, push it, forget it, move on with the rest of your life, and then we'll find you if there is any problem, kind of thing. So that most of the times you're not sitting there twiddling your thumb. Is it done yet? Is it done yet? There's pros and cons of that particular approach. But overall, patience is a virtue, not a vice. Slow it down. Yep.
So I'll add to this. What you can do with Flux. Typically, when you set up your Flux resources, you have a very short reconciliation interval. So maybe you set it to 1 minute, so Flux pulls every 1 minute. What's interesting with Flux that you can do, that you can set up Flux flatbooks, and that turns it into a push.
Oh, it does.
So every time you push your new code, Flux will run trigger reconcile if you so want to do that. Obviously helpful with testing stuff out, so you don't have to wait for the reconciliation flow.
Oh, thanks. I learned something new today. So yeah, as Tyler mentioned there, if you remember the CRD that I showed you earlier, there is a interval field in there. So you get to configure it, and you need to find your own sweet spot for what you want. This was by far the biggest contention point for us. If I build all this CD and make myself the only person who can edit the Git repository that Flux is working on, I completely defeat the purpose of CD, right? I'm just replacing my fancy Helm script with fancy tool that I just spent a week to build. Nothing changes. I also don't want anybody to willy-nilly go and push things out to production. Where's the sweet spot on that? Also, is it even possible for your development team to come in, figure out how the Flux works, edit the files so that they can self-serve themselves in the first place? Conversation happens. So, after all those gunfights, this is how we at Ketch is using Flux. I don't necessarily think it's a perfect solution, obviously. There are some cautions that we need to do, but it is the solution that we're all happy with at the moment. First, we do Mozilla subs for our secrets. We create a KMS key, then we grant the infrastructure team, 3 of us, the encrypt and decrypt permission using those keys. Permission key, KMS keys, then we do, so we encrypt all of our secrets and then commit that to Git. So it is out there. If you can see the Git repository, you can read it, but to most of you, it's going to be just gibberish random string. So that way we consider that safe enough. And then Flux will have the decrypt permission on the same key, meaning it can decrypt stuff, but it cannot encrypt anything back. It's just one more security mechanism that we have, so that even if a hacker can get into Flux, they can't mess with our stuff. Another security thing that we do 1 KMS key per environment. This is just a standard procedure that we do to avoid the ladder escalation. So if you somehow got into one of our environments, you can't get into the other environments that way. Set up 2 different repositories for Flux. One is called Fleet, and this is purely for the infrastructure team. So it handles a lot of the boilerplate work of the setting up Flux. So for example, things like SSH connection. How does Flux actually from the beginning clone and pull this repo? Configurations in there. I mentioned this earlier, Flux will try and retry and eventually give up. Well, I need to know what that's when Flux does that, so I can go fix it. Alerting, notification, all in here also. I'm sure most people do too. We have Ketch uses other open source Helm charts. We grab things from Kubernetes community, Prometheus community. We grab from Bitnami, other and so forth. All those Helm repo configurations are in here. And then the last thing we have is the namespaces. We define namespaces in here, and with that, Flux will go and create the namespaces off of the definitions defined in here. Generally speaking, our approach at Ketch has been 1 namespace equals to 1 Helm release. So inside of that namespace definition, you will also find Helm release. And then the Helm release file will just going to say, take a look at here. So this is a secondary repository that we created for Flux. All the definitions of the Helm releases are in here. So things like Helm chart, which version they're supposed to be, and the other things like configuration overrides are all in here. The the CRD that you saw or beginning of the talk is all from here. It is very tightly coupled to fleet by definition. You can't run one without the other. And so much so that in many of the Flux tutorials that you'll see, you will only see one repository. They will combine our fleet and crew into one. The reason that we divide this up is for the developers self-serve. We wanted to make it super easy for them. We don't want to overburden them with a whole bunch of stuff that they don't need to worry about. So we broke as much as we possibly can out into fleet. We'll worry about those stuff. You developers come in, just worry about your application and your application releases. Another thing that we do, we break out secrets. So all the database passwords, API tokens are in a separate file. We encrypt those so that when the developers come in and to upgrade a version, they don't have to worry about, oh, what if I break the encryption and all that jazz? Don't worry about it. We got that covered. That's set on a separate file. Another thing that we do, try to make it easier and try to make it as self-serve as possible for the application developers. Cool.
Right, so currently, part of that Helm chart and the Helm overrides packaging. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have just a single repo wherein you have the charts as well as the overrides for the environment, or I think you have a different repository for all charts definition, and then you have a repository for just the overrides?
So our chart, we have one repository for all of our charts. Well, 99% of our charts. Think of it like a Bitnami's repo. There's one chart, and all the things are in there. The overrides file that you're thinking of are in here. Right? There are no such thing. With Flux, there's no such thing as overrides files themselves anymore. But the CRD that you saw, the Helm Release CRD, serves that exact purpose, among other things. Yeah.
So, as an application developer, if I just bumped up my Docker image, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it was a main 111 and now I bumped it to main 112.
Sure.
So the only thing that I'm interested is letting Flux know that my Docker image has changed.
Yep.
Where exactly will I just bump up the commit into?
Here, at crew. So, sure, do I have that? Nope, I don't. Let me go way up into the front. Here, well, no, a little bit further. Right here. Here. Down here, and the values. A few more lines down there, you don't see it, but there will be image tag where we have the version number.
What about the new configuration?
So if it's brand new, then you will have to edit the deployment. So that will have to go through some kind of a Helm chart change itself. So you'll go to the other repository, make the Helm chart change, create a new version of it, of that version, and then provide the value down here, right? And obviously make your Helm chart change so that the default value is same, so that you don't have to set everything down here.
And what about the KMS keys? Do we generate it? Use the same configuration, but let's say
It's one KMS key per the Kubernetes cluster. So we set it up once, forget it, don't have to worry about it again, unless it's compromised or if we need to bring it up a new cluster or something like that. Keep going. Last, pull requests. Yes, it is a lot of pull requests. It is painful, but it helps with a couple different fronts. One, as we're trying to make the development team as self-serve as possible, and most of our development team don't really know Helm that well, the pull request now becomes a really nice place for us to teach them how to do it, so that for them to pick it up slowly and understand it a little bit. We don't necessarily need them to be very good with Helm, but just enough to be dangerous enough, right? So a lot of conversation happens in the pull request, and the huge big benefit that we actually get out of these pull requests are actually for audits. With Git, with Git and Flux, now you have a complete audit log of what happened on your production environment. Every change goes through this, right? So now you know who made what change, when. If you do your pull request comments properly, then you'll also have why, and you'll have who approved it. Most places, that's good enough for change control, right? So you have the full set done. Don't have to go through any more extra work trying to make yourself SOC 2 compatible. This helped us a lot in our last SOC 2 audit. And one more thing that we've been trying to get to is slowly educate more of us selected senior developers so that they can approve these kind of PRs for the non-production environments. That way, it really becomes just a matter within that team, right? For your dev environments, for potentially your staging environments, you can do that now.
So for staging environment, you still follow the tag-based model, or you always follow the tag to latest?
Currently, we do latest. I've been encouraging our team to move away from it. With Flux, and if it becomes as self-serve as I would like it to be, there is very little gain. Sure, it may take you 30 seconds longer than running some chatbot, but it will be mostly self-serve at that point. And then why are you dealing with a situation where your spot instance terminated, and now you have two different versions in the same deployment? There's very little gain on that front now. Yes.
So how do you do testing? Like, obviously, automated testing is going to work. So what tools do your techniques use for that?
So we test when we do our application change, or when we do an application change, it's the same testing processes, right? Flux itself doesn't add any more testing capabilities to you.
Okay, what I'm getting at, so we have different types of testing. We do testing with different testing that takes place at the CICD. Then with inspection, we have the ability post to run integration type tests against your service before. I understand that Flux doesn't give you anything, but I presume that you have integrated some sort of integration process before you go from staging to it.
We currently don't have any kind of a pipeline, like a Jenkins pipeline idea of environment one, run integration test, either manually or automatically, then pipeline proceeds. We don't have anything along those lines.
Do you have any automated integration tests that are run outside of the CICD?
No.
Okay. It's just something that we started to do recently. Post certain services where, and services that Snowflake, you can't write a good test for that.
Right.
So we had added those integration tests. Post deployment. So I'm just curious to see if we do.
Yeah, I mean the super easy way of that is just putting into the CI side, as you are doing. So on the CD side, yeah, if we could do some kind of a pipeline approach, then it will probably help a lot. Yeah, Spinnaker does. Spinnaker will. I mean, if you really want to go down that path, there's Spinnaker. Spinnaker, I think you are basically getting a chainsaw to cut your fried egg, but sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spinnaker will let you do anything want to do as part of your pipeline. Right?
Yeah.
You execute this, run this test, run this, deploy this, break your image. I think Spinnaker itself is a pain in the ass.
It's a beast. Tyler, do you know of any kind of like Flux Pipeline kind of an idea? No, about that?
No, I actually, that's something that actually just came up with the conversation. On the Flux side. The one thing that I can add to the Flux thing though is that, since we were kind of discussing pull requests and how when you get this sort of workflow, you end up with just like crap on a PR you have to approve. You could do something like a dev environment where, I don't know if you remember the YAML you saw where you pin, like instead of pinning a shard version, a specific version, or an image tag version, you could do something like a chart version less than 37.0.0,
Yeah.
or like obviously you can set the image tags later so you have an environment that's constantly deploying.
Yeah.
However you choose to do it.
On both sides, yes.
Did you, can I talk about Argo CD?
Sure, we can talk about Argo
I
CD.
have two questions about that. One is, there's a lack of UI in Flux. Whenever maybe Argo has got a rich UI, where you can go to UI, you can do all these operations, your application engineers could go all the schedule, resume it, roll back, etc. from the UI. So they don't have to take around with GitOps driven for a Flux itself. So do you ever think that lack of UI?
So yes, I have thought that. We've POC'd Argo first, and then we POC'd Flux after. And then I thought at the beginning of when we started POCing Flux, I thought it was going to be painful and a pain in the butt not to have a UI. Turns out not really. No, I'm already in Lens 24/7 anyways. Actually, not having a secondary UI that I need to look at makes my life a lot easier. I actually prefer not having a secondary UI that way. And then the benefit of the Helm support heavily outweighs it. For Argo, you have the Helm chart, you template it, break it all back down into YAML, a bunch of YAML files, and you apply kubectl apply that, right? So you lose a chunk of work, you lose a chunk of functionality that way. Whereas with Flux, you don't have to. I mean, all the atomics are there, the timeouts are there, the reverts, the versions are all there. You don't have to worry about that.
You can also use cycles as well, so you can handle this for an error or it's going to accept.
Oh yeah.
We also use Helm host install methods as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that goes into like a deployment channel, so running the trains can see when they actually deploy.
Yeah. We have a Slack channel where it does all that. So.
And the actual installation of Flux itself.
Mm-hmm.
Say that you have a new environment. So do you project?
One command. There's a Flux configure something command, and you point. It looks at your kube config, to access it, deploys on its own. We decide to work. At Ketch we kind of work slightly differently because we wanted to have like a PR for everything for our software audit purposes. If you're not as controlled as we are, then that command will be more than sufficient enough for you.
So does that mean that running in every Kubernetes cluster?
Yes, there are a set of pods. Yeah, there are a set of pods. I think there's like 4 or 5 different deployments it lays out. Then they are the ones who's pulling and reconciling it.
I mean, just a last question, right? So
Sure.
let's say that till the CI went through the got uploaded and sent the PR for CD, got approved, right?
Yep.
But how can I still have some control over the approval process? Let's say the Git PR got,
Yeah.
but I still wanted to block some deployments with you. 12 to 5 p.m. every day. Now, someone went there and approved that PR, but I don't want to apply that. So I still want to tell Flux that even though that PR was do not start the synchronization process.
I don't know whether you can do scheduling like that, but so I talked about how the suspend and resume. The actual reasoning why those commands exist is for this scenario. Like, yeah, so you suspend a Helm release and it will stop reconciling and doing anything with it. And it will pause and then you resume it. So in case you just merge something and it's like, oh crap, I should not have merged that. You suspend it, you let it sit, and then you let it wait. The Helm release is stuck and I need to fix it is sort of kind of like a bastardization of those two commands. But what they actually exist for is that exact reason. I don't think there is a automated scheduler, but you can do such a thing. Yeah. Any other questions?
So we are almost at the junction where maybe starting next Monday we will either choose Argo or Flux. It's fine where we are evaluating both these tools. I think looking at Flux, it looks very lightweight. Let's get started.
The amount of work that, well, at the end of the amount of work to POC Argo versus POC Flux, Flux won by a lot. Obviously, we're really productionizing it took a lot more work, but I think it was relatively easy to POC this thing. Yeah. So just to get it to a point where it will do something, not too bad.
Is it backed by CNCF?
Yeah. I think Argo's too, actually. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool.
Thank you.